All right, welcome back to the garage, everyone. The new home for the Impala Man's Garage official office. And we've got a brand new whiteboard, and that's where we're going to plan out all of our future projects. So that being said, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. All right, on our last video, we introduced the Mercedes R107 from 1973, the 450 SL flavor, don't you know? All in all, I have to say the car is pretty good, albeit somewhat of a basket case, but I think we can handle it. And it's already started to yield treasures that you probably never would have expected. Like this ridiculously large pair of sunglasses, probably for a female, which were in the back floorboard. Well, anyway, let's talk about our new project. And I want to give you my strategy, my overall thinking, and the way I plan to go about getting this car back on the road. Upon initial inspection, we realized that the timing chain was loosey-goosey. So the very first thing that we're going to tackle is the valve train. Now that will encompass the camshafts, the valves, the timing chain tensioner, the timing chain guide rails, everything associated with how the valves go up and down. Mainly because, well, that was the first thing I saw that was needed attention, so that's where I'm going to start. Got to start someplace, so that's what I'm planning on doing. Now, once we get the valve train squared away, in my mind, the next thing we want to tackle is the ignition system. Okay, which, you know, is computer control, and it's sort of a hybrid between old-fashioned breaker points and transistorized ignition. So we got to take all of that into account. There's a wiring harness we have to deal with. The distributor has a computer harness that goes to it. There's triggering points, there's breaker points, there's all kinds of stuff. So we've got to make sure all that stuff is good to go. And to follow ignition, the fuel system, right? The tank. Well, fortunately, we don't have to do anything with the tank. It's pristine, if you saw from the first video. The fuel lines are probably clogged up. We'll have to flush them out. Clearly, the injectors will need attention. They've been sitting there for 25 years, plus years. Who knows what condition they're in. They probably need to be replaced. Can you rejuvenate injectors that have been sitting around for that long? Especially injectors that were made 52 years ago? I have no clue. We're going to find out though. So anyway, the injectors, the injector pipe work on top of the motor, all the lines, the fuel pressure regulator. There's a regulator on the back of the motor, and there's something called a fuel damper. I believe it's a damper. It sits on top of the engine and keeps the pressure constant. And it feeds into or is part of the regulation aspect. So on the back of the motor, there's a regulator and the damper. And then there's an accumulator in the back right next to the fuel pump. After we get all these main items taken care of, and we're going to get them tied into the D-Jetronic. All right, so that's the gorilla in the room. He's sitting over there in the corner. I can look at him now. I'll get to you. You just wait. So this guy, you know, back in '73, this was voodoo, man. This was like magic. You know, and stuff like this didn't hit the American market in American cars till the early 80s. First car I ever drove with injection was, you know, from about an 82 model. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. So this thing had all the standard items, right? It had a map sensor, had an ECU, has a water temp sensor, has control over the ignition advance. And I was looking through the wiring harness recently and kind of identifying all the bits and pieces. And basically, if you know anything about modern vehicles and OBD1 and OBD2, especially OBD1, some of you younger guys may not be familiar with OBD1, but basically it's like the predecessor to 2, and it's a lot more basic. That's kind of like what the D-Jetronic is. I'm not belittling D-Jetronic. I'm trying to say that it was ahead of its time. And if you're familiar with the later systems, then this this really isn't that bad. The only thing that might be bad is the cost to rejuvenate it, especially the ECU. So there's a few people around the country that refurbish those boxes. In the case of this R107, I believe it's in the passenger footwell, but we'll take a look at it later. But regardless, valve train, ignition, and fuel all tied together with the D-Jetronic fuel injection system. So this thing has an ECU. That's the analog computer. It has a MAP sensor, but in this case, I believe it's called an MPS, manifold pressure sensor. MAP stands for manifold absolute pressure. That's a more modern term. You got an air temp sensor sitting in the breather air horn, and 2 or 3 others. I can't recall what they are off the top of my head. But this basically, it's bona fide fuel injection, computer controlled. And again, albeit analog, which intrigues me actually, because, well, I have a little bit of experience with primitive computer systems from my days in the Air Force. So anyway, and once we get all this stuff addressed, then we can move on to the usual suspects: steering, suspension, brakes. All these things are pretty standard. I guess really the most important item that I think is in any restoration, but you can't go down the road without it, and that's the cooling system. I didn't see anything extraordinarily difficult or weird about the cooling system on this car. It's going to have to be completely dismantled as we tear into the front of the engine anyway. No leaks, no cooling system leaks anywhere. Not tolerated, along with the brakes. No leaks, not tolerated. And lastly, we'll save the body and the interior for the last go around. These will be the last things that we do, okay? So my goal here is not to have a ripped apart project for 3 years sitting in my lift bay. That is not going to happen. If I run into a serious snag with all these items, you know, I'll probably get rid of it, right? And send it on down the road. But for right now, I think we could save this car, and I want you guys to come along on the journey with me, okay? So we've got to get this car running. I want to be able to get this car cranked and move it around anytime I want to. If I need to put another car over there in the lift bay to change the oil or do whatever else, or maybe have a sideline project to make a video on, we need to be able to move this car around. So we got to get this thing running. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start tearing into this valve train right now. All right, alternator sounds like a good place as any. Alternator is attached to this big bracket, and the big bracket is attached to the head. So I reckon we'll start by well, here's a big honking tie wrap here. Looks factory. Got to come off though, because you know we're doing stuff, and I'm gonna continue to hit my head on this grill no matter what I do. At some point I'm gonna need to remove the hood. So we have a little wiring harness that goes from the alternator over here to the front of the engine. Looks like it goes to the cooling system. Not sure what that's about. I'll have to look it up. I'm sure someone out there in the YouTube land knows. So that little wire there, from there to there, what does that do? I don't know. Now we need to disconnect the wiring harness from the alternator. There's a little wire loop, apparently, that you have to pivot off to the side there. That was easy. Can't have enough light in this joint. And let's see. I got it just there. Okay. Yep. All right. So instead of fiddling with those wires back there in that corner, I'm just going to remove the alternator and then let it dangle, and then maybe I can get to the wires more easily. I'm really afraid of breaking the wiring harness. This is the belt tensioning system. There's threads on a rod. Much more sophisticated than the typical V-belt tightening systems of the day, which involved brute force and a pry bar. Are you done? Yeah. Washer on the ground. What is that? That's an aluminum fan. I'm assuming it's aluminum. should ease on out of there. There we go. Now we can turn the alternator up on end like that. Set it in there, and then we can see how to get that stuff out of there. I'm going to shoot for this ground. Oh, that must be the main power wire right there. I'm going to shoot for that one first. There we go. Looks like a 10. Well, that's fine. Just go on down there. I'll get you later. Alright, the little wiring loom doohickey was, let's just say, readily affixed to the alternator. It took me a while to struggle that off. Alrighty. Take this little guy off right here. Take the tension off that wiring harness. So I'm using these diagonal cutters, not to cut, but to simply grip. There we go. I took a picture on this earlier, from left to right, red, orange, black there. So got the service manual downloaded already, but I haven't looked at the wiring diagrams yet. Some of you guys have probably got them memorized. Oh, that one's in there. Come on. Gotta put my arm in the, there we go. Now, the little plastic doohickey came off. Now that we've got the wires off of there, so let's just put the wires back in their proper place for now. And let's get this alternator out of the car. All right. How about that? We did something. Alternator removed. Okay, what's next? I'm not sure. I guess we'll take that bracket off next. Let's do that. We'll go from left to right. That sounds like a good plan. All right, didn't take you long for the ride on that one. I went ahead and took the upper radiator hose off, and I took the fan and the pulley off the water pump. And yeah, I got to fooling around with it, and I said, well, this isn't right. And it was kind of a struggle because the water pump, it's locked up solid, you know, it's corroded, so it's done, clearly. 2 belts on the power steering, and the power steering pump rotates silently. That's pretty cool. And 2 belts, and they go around the crank down there. And there's a single belt that goes from the crank on a tensioner, apparently, around the air conditioning compressor. And the alternator belt, man, will you look at that? You got to be kidding me. I just realized, in order to change the alternator belt on this car, you've got to take the power steering belts off, air conditioning compressor belt off. The alternator belt is on the one closest to the engine. Holy crap. Okay, well, enough of that observation. Let's make sure we do a good job so we don't have to do that in the future. I think it might be a good time. Now that we got the fan out of the way, I think it might be a good time to get this fan shroud off of here, and that'll give us a lot more room. All right, new strategy. I got the 3 screws out of the shroud, except for the one in the bottom down there. It's stripped, and it's in a stupid location. And by that I mean I can't get to it. The back side of it. Anyway, so I was like, well, you know what? The radiator's got to come out anyway. We know that. It needs to get checked out. You know, I'm not going to try to run a, whatever it is, what, 52-year-old radiator? You know, this is going to go to a radiator shop and get boiled out anyway. Leak check and all that stuff. Might as well just bring it out now and take this out along with it. And I've just been tapping around on this oil cooler line. And these things, when they're really old, don't go crazy with this, okay? I put a 22? Yeah. You're going to have a skinny wrench to get down in there. You hold your oil cooler with a 22 and, you know, get another, I just use a crescent wrench. It worked just fine. And just tap, tap, tap with a hammer. Go back and forth, tap, tap, tap. And then, you know, spray it down with, you know, the juice. And, you know, it just got to go easy on it, you know. You can't go hog wild on this old stuff, you know. Get this guy off. And of course there's one on the bottom there behind the horn, so that'll be easy to get to. Right. Yeah, I might be able to get the wiring harness out of the way and get to it without removing the horn. The horn bracket is really rusty. Can't imagine why. Well, it's not bringing any threads with it, so that's pretty cool. Alright, working hard to get the radiator out of this old car. So drained the coolant already. Got my coolant only receptacle over there. Made a big mess. No big deal. Just put a slit in the lower rad hose and got that off of there. Had to loosen the horn, which came right out actually. There's a bolt right there. That's an odd looking way to fasten something. Multiple layers of steel. Not sure what that's about. Maybe it cuts down on resonance through the body. I'm not sure. Just guessing. Really have no idea. Oil cooler line not coming off. Well, it will eventually, but you know, I'm getting there. And let's see. This is the transmission cooler lines, I believe, on the bottom here. So yeah. So all these are soaking in PB Blaster. Gonna take a while, but for right now, I'm trying to get this plastic cover out, and this fastener right here is just a spinning it around. It's supposed to go into a fixed fastener to fix to the radiator there. So anyway, I got all three of them. I got the other three out, so I got to get this one out of here. And the only way I know how to do that is to Aflac. So let me cut that off there real quick. Oh yeah, and by the way, how about that? Yeah, I couldn't help myself. Cleaned up the alternator bracket and painted it. So yeah. Yep. Here we go. It's facing the wrong way. All right, clearly all of these lines, these pressurized fluid lines, will have to be replaced. Is what it is. The transmission lines are down here. Okay. And consequently, I've noticed that the transmission cooler line parts are, well, these websites have got it wrong. They keep coming up with this real short, stubby line. It's just wrong for this car. You got two long coolant lines. It goes from here all the way back to the transmission. Anyway, I just went ahead and cut them because, you know, they're all grody and corroded. And consequently, I got the top oil line off, just pure luck, I guess. The bottom one, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to beat myself up with this. So, clip, we're done. Anyway, radiator, believe we're ready to come out. There's a clip here. If I can get this thing correct. Yes. There we go. Kind of moves out like that. Let's see if I'm guessing right. Let's see. I just tap that back. There we go. That should, unless there's another one down there. Let's see. Yeah, it's still readily affixed to the car. Maybe some bolts I missed. Probably is. Let me keep looking. All right, so yeah, I went and checked the book, and you should be able to just lift this out of here after you get those two clips out of there. So it's, you know, it's just old and crusty, and I'll have to work with it. Again, I went online and started looking for these hoses again, and I saw one guy was on eBay, and he was trying to sell, he had them labeled as, it was clearly the power steering cooler line. The power steering cooler line is a big steel thing. It comes loops around in front of the condenser. And he had it labeled as transmission line, but it was clearly power steering. I just sent him a polite note and said, hey guy, you know, your ad is wrong. This is the wrong stuff. So I'm not trying to be a jerk, but you know, just trying to help. So anyway, it moves. So I think maybe some tapping will be involved. How about a rubber hammer? Can we do that? Can we bang on a radiator? Is that allowed? This radiator's got a big whammy on the bottom of it anyway. It may leak anyway. Probably have to take it to the radiator shop. I'm going down under. It's not helping. May need to tweak that a little bit. Let me get down in there with a screwdriver. I think I found it. I need a shoehorn. I think that rubber is hanging up on that metal trim ring right there. So So if we come in here with a shoehorn kind of a thing, maybe we can, I think you get it. It's a tight fit cupping. There we go. Maybe we can get it. There we go. Got it past that one hanging point there anyway. All right, progress. It'd help if I was 25 years younger. All right, slowly but surely, she's coming out. Slower the car. I had it raised up a little bit. And then that did help to a certain degree, but not now. Should be able to oh boy, good Lord, that thing's heavy. German engineering. Holy cow, that's a substantial unit, folks. There ain't no plastic in this rascal. There's probably nothing wrong with it, really. But you know, hell, what do I know? What we're going to, I think the plan really here is we're going to take this to the local radiator shop downtown Birmingham, and we're going to get them health check it and repair it and make sure it's good to go. And we'll let them handle the oil cooler while they're at it, because these things here cost all the dollars. That's like $400 just for that little bit right there. Let me put this in a safe spot. We're going to make sure we don't ever have this problem again. What do you think about that? All right, now we can get in there and we can do the old things, right? We got room, man. That's going to be awesome. Whew. Okay, well, I need to pick my poison here. Do I want to water pump first, distributor, or power steering pump? Maybe I'll go read the book. That's a good idea. Let's go do that. All right, a couple days later here. I've been working on this radiator, taking off all of the fittings. The oil cooler fittings, upper and lower, I got those off. The upper one came off just fine. The lower one, some of the aluminum threads are a little rounded off, but I tried to reconnect the fitting and it was still kind of tight. I think we can make it work. I think it's going to be okay. The transmission line fittings here and here, those threads appear to be fine. That fitting appears to be fine, and the bottom one is questionable. However, it still goes on, so I think it's going to be okay. The radiator itself looks pretty good. I think what I'm going to do is clean it up, and I think I'm going to try to pressure test it here myself. And I think we might repurpose an engine leak down tester. That might serve our purpose quite well as the oil cooler. So I'm going to try to keep that in-house. If I can keep from sending it out, that's this extra cost I don't have to bear. Now the oil cooler line hoses, that's another story. Now those will have to be remanufactured. So here's the ends. Threads look okay down in there, but and here is the that was the transmission. Here's the oil cooler line that I pulled off. You can see where the flared end looks fine. The hose I think will clean up just fine. I think we could save it. Of course, we just cut this crimp off and take it down downtown and have a new hose manufactured. And your oil cooler lines here, there's one I clipped off. They go down here to this little guy right here, and they feed into the oil filter housing, which is just down there. So yeah, anyway, this hose here, you know, I don't know, it might be okay. I don't know, we'll just have to see. I'll probably end up having that one made. All these lines are probably gonna have to be made, especially the transmission ones, because they were just rotten. They just clipped right off. So we got the radiator out here, and still got to tear into the rest of this accessory system, and that's going to be next, I reckon. So So one thing to note here, in between all these major tasks, I take the opportunity to just clean a little part there, a little part here, so on and so forth. For instance, I just took some super clean, sprayed this down, took a fine brush, and then just worked through all the nooks and crannies and got all the grease and grime off of this. You can see the VIN, or you can see the body tag now. You can actually see the sticker. This tag here, it may be too corroded to see. You can see we found the other location for the VIN right here on the body. That's pretty cool. And anyway, so this little panel here doesn't look great, but it's way better than it was. So I mentioned earlier that I was thinking maybe would it be so bad to have a patina car? And when I say patina, I mean a car that, let's just say you took it to a car cruise, right? A drive-in car cruise, and you had some people looking at your car. We might be able to take this car up to the level that says, oh wow, look at this. It's just an all-original Survivor car that's just been maintained, right? It's not gonna be the glamour queen, right? The perfect paint job and all that kind of stuff. I just don't ever see that happening for this car. I'm not saying I wanna build I don't want to have a purpose-built patina car that looks like, well, dog crap, right? When I say patina for this, I mean a car that looks like it's just an original car that's been well maintained. So, having said all that, would I consider sanding all of this down and repainting it and making it just absolutely pristine and pretty? Right now, I'm thinking maybe not. Like, you know, this is still fine. Just got a little surface rust on it. I might knock a little bit of that off, but you know, right now, this having this look right here, that's not such a bad idea, I don't think. So, anyway, but I haven't made up my mind yet on all of that, so take that with a grain of salt. And if you have some ideas on it, comment down below. All right, let's go ahead and take the power steering pump off next. I'm going to go ahead and get these lines off, and then we'll take the bolts out of the pump where it connects to the engine. So this is the return. It's coming from the cooler. So the steering gearbox has a return line coming off of it, comes down through here, goes through the cooler down in front of the car. And when I say cooler, it's just a pipe. And then it comes back up here to the reservoir. Pretty standard power steering stuff for any vehicle, really. Not a big surprise there. And with all this fluid and stuff floating around, I'm going to guess that shouldn't be a big deal getting these connections off of here. Not sure what kind of hose that is. It doesn't look like it's anything special. Probably I'll just cut it and not worry with it. I mean, I got to replace all these hoses anyway, you know. Except for the only one that's special is the pressure line. The pressure line is going to cost the money. The return is just a hose you clamp on there. There we go. Now we have some power steering fluid dribbling out, or ATF, whatever that is. Newer automatic transmission fluid. I guess that means use automatic transmission fluid. If I had to take a stab, and that is slap full of old ATF. We're just going to let that sit over there for now and let that piddle out. It'll keep everything from rusting. Usually these are kind of spring loaded. Yeah, it's about empty. I'm not going to let that worry me. I got oil dry on the floor. All right, that is a 17. Oh, good. That one's nice and easy. Working on stuff that has fluid all over the place is easier to deal with because nothing's corroded. Sounds like number one son is home from his summer job. All right. Set that up there. Looks like I've got some 13mm fasteners here. Let's see which one's which. Hell, that one's loose already. There's the adjustment bracket. I'm not sure how that works. Oh, that's in a bracket. It's not on the engine. There's a nut back there. Yep, sure is. Have to play grab ass with that. Just dangle right there and don't move. Got a little thrust washer in between. It's basically a spacer. There's the other one. Let's see, that's a nut on the shaft, so that's convenient. I'll have to crawl around on that greasy floor and find that nut and washer I dropped. Got myself some Glad bags, some Ziploc plastic bags. I'm putting all my hardware in a safe place here. So, there we go. That wasn't hard at all. This pipe here is a little confusing to me. I'm not sure what it goes to. This appears to be a plastic. Is there a wire in there? Anyway, this snakes around and goes to the front of the engine block on the bottom down here. Where does it go? It goes there. It goes down in there and disappears. I don't know where it goes. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm assuming that bracket there will need to come off to get the time encumber. Time encumber? Get the time encumber off. Distributor or water pump? I had to make a choice on the next item to remove. All right, I was chatting with a buddy of mine, and he's like, you should actually, drain the oil and look at it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So, also, we may take a sample and send it off and have it analyzed. So, there we go. That's a 14 millimeter, by the way. So, hex Allen thing. I've never actually done oil analysis before, so probably got some kind of container you're supposed to use. So, having said all that, I'm not going to worry about it too much. And I'm going to run a sample into this baggie. We'll see how well we do here. This may be a fiasco. Oh, shit! That is the biggest oil drain plug I have ever seen in all my days. I reckon we got enough. That is the fastest oil drain. That is just so epic. Clearly, I've never changed the oil on an M117 before. Anyway, all right, let me set this aside and we'll move on. All right, let's go ahead and pull the oil filter out while we're at it. 17 on this housing. All right, we're just gonna let that drain. And when that gets tired, we'll pull it out. Initial indications here. This oil smells of fuel. I could be wrong. Got some on my hands, clearly, and it was pretty stinky. So let me pull this canister out of here and put it on the bench and see what it looks like. All right, so I don't know. It seems like it smells of old gas to me. So maybe maybe it was running rich. I think that's a common issue with these Bosch Digitronic. Apparently that screws into the filter, and I'm not done with the wrench. Now I'm confused. Is this working right? Not working right? You're supposed to do it this way? You're supposed to turn this? All right, so apparently that rascal was just in there like, man, it was really, I was tugging and tugging on it, and it was just stuck. So, anywho, there's our filter, and I don't see any craziness. I don't see any metal or sludge or anything like that. We got a PF962 cartridge. I don't see any, sparklies. I didn't see any sludge. As you recall, looking at the top of the head, there were some sparklies on top on the camshafts, and the idea being, wow, is that bearing material? Right now, I don't think so, because we know that the timing chain was really loose, and I saw witness marks in the side of the head, on the inside head wall. And that's a common issue when the timing chain is really loose. And I can only assume that, you know, the head is aluminum, so the chain's been eating away at the inside aluminum wall, causing the sparklies to accumulate, the aluminum sparkles to accumulate in the top end. So that'll all get cleaned out. That's just my theory. But I think it was running rich, or somebody tried to crank, you know, and it just didn't work out. So I don't see anything horrible down in there. There is a little, you can see a little gray matter there in the bottom. But it's not like it's huge, you know what I'm saying? I don't know, it just looks typical, really, for any, I mean, you open up any engine, any transmission, you're going to see a little something. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and open up this filter. All right, I used my, I don't know if I recorded that or all. I used my air reciprocating saw here to saw the filter open. I don't see anything. Of course, I'm just using my naked eyeballs here. I just see a dirty filter. I don't see chunks of metal, and so the only thing I see that was remotely worrying, and I'm not really going to worry about it, is a little bit of sludge in the bottom of the filter housing. But the engine has 105,000 miles on it, so in my mind, I don't think that matters a whole lot. Let's move on with our front end disassembly. All right, let's go ahead and get the distributor cap off next. We're going to go ahead and take the distributor out. In order to do that, we're going to put the engine on top dead center. In order to do that, we're going to match the top dead center mark on the crank pulley with the top dead center indicator on the distributor. And then for good measure, we'll probably match that with the marks on the camshafts as well. But first things first, we're going to go ahead and get this vacuum line off. That was easy. We're going to go ahead and take these wires off next. All right, there's number one right there. So the one directly adjacent to the vacuum advance is not number one, but the one next to that, that's number one. So we're going to remember that. Wires, man, that looks really nice in there. Ease it up, there we go. Don't want to break anything. Might just reuse these wires. I don't know why we wouldn't. I mean, they're only 52 years old. Every time you hear a thong on the camera, that's me slamming my head into the grill. Get our clips off of there. Guess we ought to just get these wires out of the way, huh? Probably ought to do that next. Let me get this cap off here. I'm just dying of curiosity. There we go. I don't guess it's horrible. Probably needs to be replaced. The contacts are definitely not clean, and I do see some buildup on them. So this cap, I don't know. You might be able to clean it up, but we'll probably get replaced. I don't know. It depends on the price of the parts, I guess. And we got breaker points down in here. They move, which is good. Man, that rotor is just, that is a sophisticated piece of kit right there. There's your condenser. All right, the vibration damper, otherwise known as a harmonic balancer, is fairly corroded, and couldn't see the numbers on it. Looks like somebody put an orange mark right there on 0. So there's the pointer right there on the engine, and we got to come back around because I think the 0 mark is right there where that orange mark is. Somebody put an orange mark there. Looks like a 0, so we've come past it. So I got to get a 27 millimeter, Got to get on this crank bolt, spin her around, and then once I'm sure I got my 0 there on the little pointer, then we'll take a look at the distributor and make sure that mark lines up with the rotor, and then we'll check the cam marks as well. So, all right, got the 27mm on the Big Mama Jamma. You may recall that from the Cadillac video. This is a 3/4 inch extendable ratchet. Does not screw around. Okay, let's see, clockwise, Harris, clockwise. I didn't really like the feeling of that, to be honest with you. Not sure what that was about. That felt like the chain dragging on the head. I believe that's what it was. So I'm going to take the valve covers off, take a look at that chain before we do this. All right, I had to fight to get that valve cover off. It was, it's a challenge. So anyway, that's your low side air conditioning hose. Had to bend that up a little bit. Had to disconnect, well, basically cut these fuel lines here. Got that one labeled because that goes to this little regulator right here. And this guy here goes right there, so you can see where that drapes over that. Also the vacuum line for the map sensor and the wiring harness, had to disconnect those because they drape over the valve cover and connect here. And even after I got all that done, I still, you see right there, is a real tight fit. You got to hold your mouth just right to get that out of there. Telltale signs that your timing chain is too loose. You see that right there? Where that timing chain's been cutting into that head. I think that's where our shavings have been coming from. You can see where the timing chain has been starting to rub inside that. I bet that made an awful racket, by the way. Especially bad over here. This is the passenger side, right-hand side. Look at that. I can actually feel that. So that right there, those grooves dug in the valve cover, that's where that shiny bit is coming from. The shiny bits we saw on the film earlier on here. So, okay, now we can turn the engine over. Now we can move on. All right. What are we doing? See there? Not making any noise now. Don't speak too soon, Harris. I put oil on this cam. I need to put some oil on that one. I forgot about that. Been dry for a long time, don't you know? So we don't want to wear anything out prematurely. Actually, I didn't have a chance to inspect this one earlier. I don't feel anything with my fingers. We're going to be nice to our old camshafts here. He's not using the right viscosity oil for that Mercedes. Well, you know what? You'll get over it. All right, goal here is top dead center. Round and round she goes. Where she stops, I know where she stops. All right, I'm coming up on my lines here. All right. Relax, Harris. Right there. Right there. We're going to stop right there. Now we're going to look at everything. Now we're going to see that, yeah, it don't look right. Kind of makes me wonder whether or not I'm doing what I'm doing. Anyway, of course, I could be, what they say, 180 out. That could be. I could be. That could be. I could see that. Do you know what you're doing? No. Yes, I do. Where's my light? When you get old, you can't see without glasses and like 1,000 suns. So there is the little mark on that cam system over there. There's your mark right there. And the mark over here is right there. Let's spin her around again. This is fun. You're gonna hear a little squishy sound because all but one of the plugs is back in the motor, so that's the compression. You probably can't hear it though. I can. Now we're back around. Now we're in the right spot. Right down there. There's your 0 right there. And somebody was kind enough to put a pink mark there, or orange or red or whatever my color blindness says it is. Here's our distributor. Here's our rotor. Right here, the tip of the rotor lines up with the top dead center mark on the distributor housing. The distributor housing has a little mark right there. So those two line up. Now from what I read, this arrangement here, this is going to be like behind a little bit, right? Because I guess because of the cam timing. So here's the mark on the cam, and here's the mark on the, I guess, rocker arm assembly. So it's a little bit behind, as you can see. And the same status should be over here. Yep, probably can't see it, but I can. That mark is just a little bit that way, not quite up to that one. So I'm probably going to be extra careful, put a bore scope up inside number 1 just to look at the valves, make sure the piston is up high and all that kind of stuff before we move on and take that distributor out. All right, let's go ahead and get these plug wires out of the way. So I've been learning all along about this motor. So I've got these 2 vacuum lines here. I know what that is now. That's obviously a computer controlled vacuum switch. One end goes over here to the throttle body, and the other end goes over to, this actually goes here, and this goes to the vacuum advance. So the computer will determine when the best time is to turn on the vacuum advance. So we got this bracket here. It's that these wires are connected to, and it is in sad shape, that's for sure. I want to get these wires out of my way so I can see something. All this stuff laying here, you don't know whether you're coming or going. That must be an intake manifold bolt. Wouldn't need that just to hold wires on. Got to take the intake manifold off anyway. But not right now. My workbench is getting crowded. I'm about to put up some tools. All right, now we got that spark plug harness loose from there. So we're learning all along here. So we got air temp for the breather right there. A little thingy broke off of it. We got the distributor control, vacuum advance, computer controlled, and this goes into this separate harness right here. So we don't want to get all rambunctious. That looks like a coolant temperature sensor right there. Man, this is stuff that didn't hit the American market until 10 years later. You know, not in general, not in full force. You know, I remember the first time I drove a fuel-injected car, it was like throttle body injection, right? It was a Chevy Citation on a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder. Had a single barrel throttle body injection. It was an OBD1 stuff, and had all these same stuff in it. You know, all the little sensors and whatnots and stuff. But I was just simply amazed that you would just crank the engine without any fanfare, and it would just run like a sewing machine. It was amazing. That was the early 80s. Come on, spark plug wiring harness. Let us be free. All right, let's get this other side. That's your map sensor to the computer harness. Here's our driver's side wires. Hopefully we don't have any more surprises. And this will just come out of there without any fuss. I said come out of there without any fuss. All right. Spark plug wires evacuated. All right, we're getting ready to pull this distributor out of here, And this probably seems unnecessary, but I want to make a little, yes, I know it's a screwdriver. It'll make a mark though. I'm just going to give myself some visual reference. This is not for highly accurate stuff. That's just sanity check marks when I put this car back together. Okay, there's a 5mm hex head screw down between the water pump and the distributor. You can't see it, but I had the right tool in my hand. I don't know why I thought I would need to go to that other one. It's actually the manual timing adjustment. You loosen that little Allen and it basically loosens the distributor and lets you set the timing. Yeah, look at that, it came out and fell down in the engine somewhere. We'll find it here in a bit. Let's just get her on out of there. Look at that, it ain't long like a American V8. It's a little short, stubby rascal. So the teeth on the distributor gear look fine. I don't see any wear marks. It has a little bit of up and down play. It's probably normal. You need a little bit. You don't need a lot, but you need a little bit. I got this wire here. I got to run that down. Figure out where that goes and disconnect that. Looks like the power wire, I guess. It runs down here and it's clipped onto the body with these rusted up body wiring clips, and goes down here and comes off of, I guess, a couple of ballast resistors right here. So I've got a rusted up power distribution block here with some rusty screws. I'm going to have to work for a little while to get those screws out of there and get that wire released so I can remove this distributor. So that's going to take me a little time. I'll be back. All right, so these two ballast resistors right here, was able to thankfully get that rusty screw out, and I removed the power wire going to the distributor. So we just need to mine it out of here now, and we can take our greasy distributor over to the workbench, and we'll get that in a big gallon bag, so that'll be protected from all the grit and grime. Yeah, whatever. Okay, distributor's out. Let's move on. Let's see, what was that? This is the coil wire. Okay, that's part of ignition. We don't worry about that right now. All right, see where I'm going with that? See how I did that? We're working on valve train. We're gonna leave the ballast resistors. You guys, we'll get to you later. That's ignition. Valve train is concentrating. This is where we are. Stick with me. All right, when it comes to rusty hardware, anything goes. And that seems to have done the trick. The British have a different name for these. In the US, we call these vice grips. And these are USA made, and I've had them for like 30 years. So anyway, I forget what the British name is. Some kind of, it's strange. Strange to me it is. There we go. Yep. And this other one is pretty messed up too, but yeah, the screwdriver simply just would not do it. I'm sure we'll have to replace about 75% of the clamps on this vehicle, and all the hoses and all the belts. We'll see if this one will come loose. It's not as bad. I lived in Chicago for a while, and those folks up there, the business-minded, yuppies that drive to work every day, they're real particular about driving their, or at least in the 90s anyway, they were real particular about driving their nice cars. Like if they drove them to work in the wintertime, they were real particular about taking them to the car wash. And the only thing they were interested in was washing the salt off. I don't think this fella cared too much. All right, I wonder where that goes. That must go to the heater. Now, we got a electrical thing here, right? Temperature sensor, clearly for the coolant. We don't want to screw that up. What you gonna do now, Mora? I don't know. I guess we ought to take the water pump bolts out and grab it like this and take it out as a unit. Let's try that. 13, very popular fastener on this vehicle. And the ignition timing mark is in the water pump. I was thinking it was bolted to the block, but it appears to be part of the water pump. All the other R107 people are like, yeah, you're just not telling me anything I don't already know, buddy. Get to the good stuff. Well, this is the good stuff as far as I'm concerned. Might as well hose them down too. Not impressed with this PB Blaster idiotic button. Hey, look at that, it works now. Well, these are either coming loose or breaking off. One or the other. Careful. Well, let's see, did I get all the bolts? Probably not. No, there's one more. You damn right I don't. Water pump's locked up, so me banging on it ain't gonna hurt nothing. Might actually help it. Hey, look at that. We fixed it. It was locked up tighter than Dick's hatband. Who says Jeremy Clarkson is not a smart man? Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and take the rest of the fasteners out, I guess. Okay, that's cool. It just came right off the motor. Not terrible up in there. Hello? Coolant passages go down into the heads from there, I reckon. I'm not seeing a thermostat. Where's the thermostat at? It must be in there. I thought it was over here. It must be right there though. Did I get all the bolts? All right, had to start over. On the water pump here. Basically, I had to reinstall the distributor at TDC and kind of start over. And because there's two bolts on the bottom of the water pump that I, well, clearly missed because I didn't know what I was doing. I had to go inside and look at the factory service manual, and it says turn the engine over until you get to these little cutout places in the harmonic balancer so you can get to those two bolts back there. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Get the big old wrench back in there and turn the engine over until we get to, let's see, some bolts. Let's see, there's one there. Don't put your finger between the bolt and the thing, Harris. That would be dumb. Don't do that. How many are there? All right, there's one. Let's see, I need to find the, they weren't kidding. It's definitely hidden back there, so we got to figure out how to get the socket on it. Oh, there it is. We found it. There we go. Didn't have the engine turned quite into the correct orientation. All right, let's go to the other one. Should be another one here somewhere. Definitely hard to see, that's for sure. I'm just kind of going in there blind. I don't have any light down in there. There it is. Yep, I hear coolant drizzling out. Well, I didn't get the other bolt. Let me spin it back. I know you're not supposed to spin it opposite direction, but for a short period it won't hurt. Come on, bolt. Yeah, the water pump was sagging on me. Clearly, I've never done this before, so. Well, I've changed out about 1 million water pumps, but never on this motor. All right. Last bolt is out. Water pump is free. Yeah, so the timing mark, interestingly, and I didn't know that, was built into the pump. And she's, you know, she's pretty grody. Probably would work, but, you know, well, it'll get a new one. Let's see what we got in there. Do we have anything interesting? What is that? Looks like some specks of iron rust, maybe. Looks like gravel. But I'm not... Inside of the block, at least as far as I can stick my finger in there, is really clean. That's a good sign. I looked down and I took my bore scope and I looked down in the intake manifold, and it's really clean too. I looked up in the coolant passage. It was really nice and clean. So that's a really good sign. It makes me feel good. So what I'm gonna do now is go ahead and spin this motor back around and put it back on top dead center. And then we'll take the distributor back out, and then we'll start to remove the air conditioning compressor and the pulleys and the harmonic balancer and all that jazz. So you guys hang tight. We're gonna get this timing cover off before this video is up. Oh yeah, well, you can't have, there's no free lunch. I had to take the water pump, put 2 bolts in the top so I can regain my timing mark, so I could line it up with the crankshaft, and then I could put it on top dead center. And anyway, I think you get it now. Having said all that, if you were just going to do the water pump, clearly you wouldn't want to worry with this. Or if you were just going to do the distributor, you wouldn't want to worry with, you know, but the fact that we're doing both these things together, and the fact that I've never done it before, is, well, you know, that's what you get, right? So, yeah. All right, I'm going to pull this back off, and then move on. All right, next thing we're going to do is take this air conditioning compressor off of here. I need to get this belt tensioner off. So I got a 19, seems to fit. I'm just going to get after this main bolt here, see what that does for me. Yeah, that just loosens it right up. Got the belt right off of there, not a big deal. I think that bolt is too long to come out without taking that pulley off. Got an 8mm Allen here. Let's see. There we go. There we go. You just take it all the way back in it. Now we should be able to take the pulley off. And probably just leave that alone and crawl underneath this greasy car and start to take that compressor off. So yeah, really see a need to take that out of there, to be honest with you. All right, interpreting these translated German service manuals can be quite challenging. All right, let's see. Unscrew pressure and suction hose from pipeline on 16. There's 16 there. I'm not sure what that is. That probably goes to the compressor lines, maybe? I don't know. I'll do that from underneath. But regardless, next thing, unscrew screw 20 on carrier for pressure oil pump. Anybody know what the pressure oil pump is? Could it be called a power steering pump in the rest of the world? Probably so. 20. So there's the power steering pump, and there's 20. There's the screw they're talking about, which is right there. And I actually forgot to take the bracket off for the power steering pump. So let's do that now. So that encompasses the screw they're talking about in the instructions. A bunch of little flat washers. Don't lose those. I think they're spring-loaded, actually. Or they're spring-loaded in a way that it's unconventional, at least in my mind. That basically disconnects all that bracketry, I believe. Oh, I missed one. Part of my problem is everything's so daggum greasy, I can't see all the bolts. I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying, hey, that's the reality. That's what bolt 20 was bolted into. There's a little bracket on the top right-hand corner over there. So that goes in the power steering bag. Let's see if we can't clean as we go here. Got our good old friend Super Clean back in action. That'll help us degrease things so we can see what in the world is going on. While we're at it, we're going to go ahead and I think this is a good opportunity to use the Super Clean foam type stuff. Give it a good opportunity to really sit on that motor and eat, as they say. This thing is nasty. I ain't lying. All right, you want to be careful not to get any water inside the head, clearly. Be careful. I'm going to keep it away from that hole right there. I guess we'll use a little duct tape over the distributor hole there. That might work okay. I got my big tub underneath the car to catch all the greasy water and stuff, so. Don't want to go hog wild here, don't you know? All we need to do is rinse the water into the tub. The chemical does the rest. All right, I'm gonna let that dry off. Our job won't be quite so nasty from here on. All right, I went ahead and disconnected the refrigerant lines from the back of the compressor. It's a single bolt, and it holds a compression plate up against the back of the compressor, and both the intake and the exhaust refrigerant lines are bolted and held to the A6 compressor in that fashion. We'll take a look at it after we get it out of the car, but it's, well, you can see where it is, right? There's no way for me to film it. So anyway, I got that bolt out down there. So they're loose from the compressor now. And the intake or return refrigerant line is here. I just disconnected it here. This comes out of the evap core, and this is the compression line, and it goes towards the condenser. So they're both disconnected now. I should be able to lift this out of the car, hopefully, because this, you don't want to screw this up, because you got to clean these up and reuse them. Good luck finding that part somewhere. If you did, it'd probably cost $1 million or more. It'd cost more than I'd want to pay. But again, a competent AC shop could remanufacture it if you really needed them to. So this little canister here, I'm not really sure what that does. My 81 Coupe de Ville Cadillac had one on it as well. I think it must be some sort of dampening type deal. So anyway. So yeah, again, this is the high compression line here, and then the big fat one is the low compression return. So anyway, let's get this in a safe place, and we'll move on. All right, so I got 4 bolts out of the compressor, a couple in the front, a couple in the back here. Got the refrigerant line out. Can't pull it forward unless you get this bracket out here. So I guess we're doing that next. Yeah. That's the remaining front bracket bolt, and there's 2 in the back that I can only get to by feel. So let me go ahead and get those out of there. I'll be back. All right, I'm not gonna lie, getting this compressor out is about to whoop me. So yeah, put the distributor back in, made sure everything was on top dead center. I had to spin the motor over a little more to line up this indentation here in the harmonic balancer with the last bolt in the compressor bracketry, which is way back in there, and the only way you can get to it is to line that up. So and the service manual is completely wrong on this. For this 73, it mentions a couple of other bolts that are nowhere to be found. So anyway, so service manual struck out this time. So anyway, let me get this last bolt out of here, and that should get this bracket free. The compressor's already free. It moves. Trust me, it moves. So yeah, this is kind of tough. All right, let me get that last bolt out of here and see if we can get this thing out. All right, that was one of the hardest bracketry things I ever did, actually. It was really difficult to find all the bolts. So hit the condenser. I think I'm gonna do something. Okay, yep, there we go. Removed. On with the show. Give me strength. There we go. Just there we go. Gonna be replaced anyway. Drop it down gingerly. This thing here is yeah, it's a very unpleasant person designed that, I'm sure. That is the most substantial accessory bracket I've ever seen on a vehicle. I don't guess that bolt wanted to be there anymore. So yeah, let's get our bolts in our air conditioning bag. And let me pick that compressor up off the floor. Do some more general cleaning. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. I'm going to put this engine back on top dead center. Once again, in all of this, if you want to put it on top dead center, got to put the water pump in place, right, with a couple bolts. So yes, because it's got the pointer on it. I suppose you could cobble together a pointer, but whatever. All right, that was a challenge. I'm not going to lie. We're going to move on now, though. I'm glad it's over. All right, let's go ahead and get this damper and pulley arrangement off here. So let's see, we've got a hole here with a line running through it. And we're going to put a little mark right there in case we turn it by accident, you know. So see how well we do here. I got my 27mm socket already up in there. There it goes. I did turn the engine slightly, very slightly. So what we're going to do to counteract that is put this back in place, turn the engine back to where it was, and then when we loosen the bolt again, it won't turn the motor. So that thing is way up in there. I ain't kidding you. Put that on low, change the direction. All right. Probably seems like overkill, but I really don't want to be dealing with a motor that's not set on TDC. There we go. Let me look at my chain up here, which is highly inaccurate anyway because it's got so much slop in it. I'm being overly paranoid because I've never torn into one of these engines, and I imagine as I work through this thing, get more and more comfortable with it, you know, I just won't care, and before you know it, I'll be spinning it around and timing it up and doing all kinds of crazy things. Now this has got a bolt with a bunch of basically they're spring washers apparently. There's a stack of them in here. It says they're a spring washer, but they just look, I guess they're concave or convex or whatever you want to call it. I don't know how many of them it is. 3 or 4, I guess. I got 3 there. Let's see, there's 4 way up in there. That's got some grease on one end of it, and I'm guessing that's the last one. You got to, when you put this thing back together, you got to have all these facing the same way. But all that's in the service manual, so it'll be all right. All right, according to the manual, we should be able to just pull this thing right over there. Just pull right off of there. You're supposed to just come right off of there. You've only been on there for 52 years. What's your major malfunction? Book said use a rubber mallet. That's what I'm doing. Man, there's a bunch of dirt up inside that hub. So you got screws around the pulley. The pulley is screwed to through the balancer into the hub, and the whole shooting match, once you get that one bolt out, is supposed to slip off. I found a plastic hammer. It feels pretty heavy though. This must be some kind of really dense plastic. It sure is working well, though. I'm going to have to remember where I got this plastic hammer from. That's actually doing the trick. That's coming right out, actually. All right, here we go. Now we can... There we go. Woo! How about that? That's a first for me. Never done that before. How about that? Let's get that over to the bench. All right, we can put eyeballs on the front main seal there. Pretty standard stuff. What we're going to do now? I think I'm going to look at the next step in the manual. How about that? Well, there you have it, folks. I initially had planned to go ahead and remove the timing cover from the front of the engine, but kind of run up against a time constraint. This weekend is the Memorial Day weekend here in the United States for you folks that are viewing from abroad. So I don't want to bump up into that. I'd kind of like to do more fun things this weekend than wrenching on cars. Not that, you know, wrenching on my newish Mercedes is not fun, but it's a different kind. So we're going to end this video right here. This will be part 2 in our restoration series for the old R107 here. And we got as far as getting the harmonic balancer off. The reason I wanted to end this video here was because up next we've got to take the oil pump off. And we have to take the oil pump chain off, and that involves removing the oil pan and the oil damper, which is part of the oil lines that come from the engine to the oil cooler. And that also involves removing a couple of the head bolts on the front of the engine. And well, anyway, it's just a bunch of stuff that I don't want to get into right now because I need to do a lot of cleaning before I dig into that, especially taking the bottom oil pan off because it is monumentally, catastrophically nasty underneath there. So before I do that, what I'm probably going to do is get the car up in the air and just go to town cleaning this thing underneath before I dig into that next step. Yeah, I really wanted to get the timing cover off in this second video, but I think we're just going to call this removal of the front engine accessories and the harmonic balancer. So that's pretty good progress. If you, you take a look at what we've got here. We've got the air conditioning compressor mount down there. Got the harmonic balancer. We've got the air conditioning hoses right there. We got the A6 compressor down there on the floor, valve covers, alternator, power steering pump, fan, water pump hiding underneath the gloves right there. All the baggies, the breather, the fan shroud, the radiator. All in all, I say that's pretty good progress for video number 2. If this had been another car that I was really familiar with, taking all this stuff off probably would have been, well, somewhat trivial. But I've never worked on this engine before. Everything is nasty beyond belief. Couple that with the fact that it's extremely old. It's a computer-controlled, fuel-injected car, and the wiring harness is brittle. It seems to be pretty good, but I'm really being careful about I don't want to break anything. I want it to be serviceable. So anyway, I think you get where my brain is during all of this. So anyway, we're going to call this video 2 in our R107 restoration series. I appreciate you guys stopping by the channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release another R107 video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. You guys know where it is. You guys have a good one, and remember to enjoy maintaining and restoring your classic Mercedes. Yep, the buzzer is buzzing. Yeah, they all do that. Ow! Who designed this trailer?